Hello. Didn't think you'd see me again, did you? I didn't think I'd see me again either. A couple months ago, my mom passed away from breast cancer, and so I thought I was just done with YouTube, with everything. There no longer seemed like a point in doing anything if my mom wasn't around for me to make her laugh or to make her proud. I don't think soulmates always have to come in the form of romantic relationships, and I thought my mom was my soulmate, my everything, my ride or die. And without her around anymore, what the hell was I even doing here? But maybe there is one reason. What if, through telling you my mom's story, I could warn you of the horrors that await you? What if I told you that you don't hate the American healthcare system enough? People are always bitching about how bad the American healthcare system is. We spend more on healthcare per capita than any other developed nation, and yet our life expectancy is significantly worse. It's so ass backwards that it's appropriately reached meme status, but do you know why? No, I don't think you do. I don't think anybody truly understands how bad it really is until they've gone through it themselves, because you're largely divorced from things until you actually get sick, and I think that's part of the business model. The American system doesn't focus on preventative care and overall wellness. It waits. Your suffering is monetized. When you have a chronic illness slowly taking away your autonomy, your bargaining power is destroyed. You can't refuse things the way that they are, because then you'd be throwing your own life away. It's like getting mugged every time you walk into the ER. And for what? Are the outcomes better than in other countries? No! The US has a higher rate of deaths to preventable or treatable illnesses across all ages when compared to other wealthy countries. If you live here, your likelihood of dying in such a spectacularly demeaning and entirely preventable fashion is through the roof, because the US healthcare system has no qualms with hiring complete fucking retards, and because the nurse at the front desk sent the doctor an x-ray of a fucking hand instead of your goddamn mammogram result. That's a real thing that happened to my mom, by the way. What's that? You're bleeding out and you need an ambulance to take you to the hospital down the road? That'll be $3,000, please. Huh? You're wondering why on your itemized receipt we charged you $400 for a single capsule of Tylenol? Fuck you, that's why. Also, your unborn child has autism now, and that's exactly what happened to my mom. My mom was failed every step of the way and died from a cancer that wasn't even spreading very fast. Doctors had a 13-year head start to do something about it, and they did exactly jack shit. 13 years ago, anytime my mom was wearing a tank top, that's when I saw it. On the outer edge, just below her armpit, there it was. A dimple. I was like 20 years old at the time, young and fresh-faced and, not studying medicine in college or anything, and even my dumbass knew that she needed to get that checked. And she did. And she got a mammogram about it, and they found nothing. And why did they find nothing when such a very obvious symptom of breast cancer was staring everybody in the face? Well, the short answer is that the people doing her mammogram were retarded. The long answer is that they did a mammogram and nothing else. No follow-up. Now I know what you're thinking, but Mika, aren't mammograms the industry standard for early breast cancer detection? You can't blame doctors if they were only doing exactly what they were supposed to do. Mammograms are great if you have normal, fatty breast tissue. My mom didn't have that. My mom had dense breast tissue, which is a type of breast tissue that has a higher ratio of glandular and fibrous material in it. So when you get a mammogram with tissue like this, the whole thing lights up like a goddamn Christmas tree, and it's impossible to really see much of anything except bunch of white stuff. Differentiating between fibrous tissue and malignant tumors is very difficult like this. When you have dense breast tissue, you also have a higher chance of developing breast cancer over your lifetime because there is a higher rate of cellular activity in it. What you're supposed to do with women with dense breast tissue is give them a supplementary MRI or ultrasound. This became the standard practice for this type of breast tissue as early as 2009. And between 2012 and 2017, this was never once suggested to my mom. My mom did what every woman is told to do and started getting yearly screenings since she turned 40, and doctors still managed to royally fuck this up. Not once while screening tissue that very clearly occluded itself did doctors ever consider, maybe we should try other methods of diagnostics in order to get the most conclusive result here. My mom wouldn't be diagnosed with breast cancer until 2017. The dimples in her breast began to grow in number and started to itch, so my mom sought out a dermatologist. And it was the dermatologist, not a breast specialist. The derma-fucking-tologist was the one to finally look at her dimples and say, "Oh shit, you need a biopsy, like, right fucking now." The results came in. It was cancer. Full body scans were done. Stage 4. This is going to be a recurring gripe from me during this story. This obvious negligence on behalf of healthcare professionals. I can't say exactly what possesses a doctor to do stuff like this, but I've narrowed it down to 2 things. When you live in the United States, your balls are forever in a vice grip constructed by health insurance companies. Sometimes the only thing standing between you and that ultrasound you really need is your health insurance company's reluctance to pay for the damn thing. But since it was never actually suggested that my mom get an ultrasound or an MRI, the reason for my mom's slow diagnosis could have only been the other thing. Gay baby idiot retard brain disease, a horrible condition that affects many in the medical industry. There is no cure. My mom had savings. She could have paid out of pocket for an ultrasound, it was just never suggested to her. A lot of people view doctors as these infallible scholars, almost otherworldly and incapable of fucking up, like you have to be really smart and determined to survive medical school, right? Oh, buddy! If only you knew how bad things really are. Doctors are people. I'm a people, you're a people. And people can be lazy. I can be lazy, and a doctor can be lazy. Just because you're a medical professional doesn't mean that you're incapable of falling into the trap that is not wanting to do your job. But what's perplexing to me is that these doctors don't seem to realize that when they're not locked in at work, they're playing with somebody else's life. If I don't do my job, you don't get a YouTube video for a couple of months. If a doctor doesn't do their job, somebody dies. Let's also talk about the elephant in the room. My mom was black. No, I'm not adopted. I look like this because my dad is white, and I don't go outside. We all know that I think corporate wokeness is a blight on society, but that doesn't mean I don't think that racism doesn't exist. Black women are more likely to have their symptoms dismissed or minimized, leading to delays in diagnosis for conditions like heart disease, autoimmune disorders, and breast cancer. Black women are more likely to be diagnosed with aggressive breast cancers and often at later stages, partly because their concerns are taken less seriously or their pain or symptoms are misattributed. There are still doctors out there that don't think women have nerve endings in their cervix, so they just go in there with a big pair of sharpened forceps and just grab you by the pussy. There are medical professionals out there that still think that black people have higher pain tolerances. My mom wasn't poor, she wasn't uneducated, she knew to get regular screenings. Do I think all doctors go to racism class at medical school and learn to treat black people differently? No. I'm just trying to say that doctors aren't these paragons of virtue and education that a lot of people seem to think they are, and yeah, that includes certain character flaws like potentially being racist. A lot of them are just egomaniacs, formerly gifted children that pursue these high-skilled careers so that they can effectively self-flagellate at high school reunions, and they don't necessarily give a shit about the people that they're trying to treat. And for that reason, I think people need to be more selective when choosing doctors when they can, and they shouldn't be afraid of getting second opinions when these people have no qualms with gaslighting you when you know there is something wrong with your own body. So whether it was plain incompetence or a doctor taking one look at the black lady waiting quietly in their office for a checkup and thinking, oh, there's a black woman in here, I'd rather not. My whole day is ruined. My mom was never given the screenings that she deserved. Initially, they gave my mom 3 months to live. Initially, my mom didn't even tell me she had cancer. One day, she came to visit me at college and she took me out to dinner. She was her usual goofy self, cracking jokes at every opportunity. She didn't seem anxious at all. The only thing out of the ordinary that happened was that she handed me an envelope and inside of it was 20 grand. Confused, I asked her, "Haha, what's wrong? What are you, dying or something?" She said casually, without her gaze wavering or her voice cracking, "No, nothing like that. It's just for being a good kid." I took the money and put it in a safe without any intention of ever using it, and I would end up giving it back to her 4 months later, a month after her initial prognosis. She was still alive and well, and I had no idea she was even sick. And eventually, when I told her that I had plans to travel the world after college, she finally broke down and told me that she'd rather I stayed close for the time being, because she in fact had stage 4 breast cancer. My mom was lucky enough to be put on a medication that seemed to stop any and all metastasis. She was completely asymptomatic for 8 years after this. She didn't need surgery or chemotherapy. It was inoperable anyway, but for the time being, we thought she was in the clear. Sometimes the world around you changes and you have to leave the state where you had good health insurance and slow but more or less competent doctors. Sometimes you have to move to an area of the country where every doctor within an hour's drive is a complete knuckle-dragging homunculus that delights in watching you suffer, and that's how my mom got into the situation that she was in earlier this year. In February of this year, my mom was no longer on the fancy health insurance. She opted to switch to Medicare in light of all of the rising costs of everything. And while of course she still had cancer, it hadn't bothered her in years. It lay dormant inside of her body, and as long as she was regularly taking her 2 medications, Ibrance and Letrozole, everything was fine. She was, however, having a rough time connecting with the oncologists in her network. All of them seemed extremely dismissive about her condition and very unbothered with her and unsympathetic, so she kept trying to switch oncologists. She'd even heard a couple of them joking in the hallways of their medical offices about how cancer was a big business, and she kinda didn't want to deal with people like that. She was just looking for somebody who was willing to do the bare minimum of quelling her anxiety and having decent bedside manner. So she found another new oncologist, and they stopped prescribing my mom her medication. Why? Shit, man, your guess is just as good as mine. There was no new metastasis. Her tumor markers were even shrinking in places. This doctor wanted to give my mom a new medication, and my mom was rightfully confused about it. The side effects of this new medication were gnarly as fuck, and my mom didn't want to have to put up with readjusting to a new medication, and why should she? This medication had been working for years. But this doctor insisted that she needed to be off of this medication, and naturally my mom, looking out for her own health, just followed directions. And then for 2 months, the doctor just forgot about my mom. No follow-ups, no prescription for the new medication, nothing. Just radio silence. And during this time, my mom followed directions and stopped taking her medication. So why was this doctor trying to get my mom to take a new medication when she'd been fine for 8 years? I spoke to my next door neighbor a few days after my mom died. I went over there to break the news and try to make sense of things, and I asked him directly. He happened to be a retired naval doctor of 30 years who happened to also have cancer, and he told it to me straight. Doctors simply have financial incentives to do certain things, and to deny this is to deny human nature, and I think therein lies a specific problem with the way we do healthcare in this country. The for-profit nature of it ruins the intimacy required between doctor and patient to get the most desirable life-saving outcome. They don't care about your well-being, they care about making the most money, and this is made obvious by something like how astronomical the price of an MRI is. Doctors will try to tell you that an MRI is expensive because they have to pay off the machine and the person who knows how to use it, and this is only partially true. What they don't tell you is doctors essentially collude with each other to keep things really expensive. They literally just make a number up, and if other doctors in the area also agree to charge that, that essentially becomes the standardized cost. Even worse still, doctors can just decide to charge you more based on which insurance you have. It's bullshit, it's all made up. Doctors will pull a number directly out of their assholes, and if they can get away with charging it, they will, and usually they can. There's nothing stopping them from doing this. And this line of thinking is why I don't think we're ever going to find a cure for cancer. The temptation to have a patient chronically sick and forever profitable is just too great. The incentive to have chronically sick people rather than healthy ones with no issues is too much of a temptation.
But Mika, doctors would never do that. Doctors are really smart and invested in the research that will someday cure people. We just haven't found the cure for cancer yet because we just haven't, okay? Cancer is a really complex disease, and there's lots of different kinds of cancer, and they all behave differently from each other.
How stupid are you? They haven't found a cure for cancer because they're not looking for one. You can't sit there and tell me that an industry absolutely rotten with greed and corruption and runaway political power is actively looking for a way to destroy their own business model. It's just basic common sense. Do you know how laws get passed in this country? Lobbying by special interest groups. Not by the red guy, not by the blue guy, whoever is the best at bribing the red or the blue guy. You know which industry spends the most on lobbying? The pharmaceutical and health products industry. If researchers do find a cure, do you know how easy it is to just silence things you don't like if you have the money to do that? Remember when Monsanto covered up all of those studies that linked Roundup directly to an increased likelihood of developing cancer? You think shit like that doesn't happen all the time in the scientific community?
Trust the science.
Your best chance at a cure is just not developing cancer in the first place, but that's also really hard because they keep poisoning the food supply. There are forever chemicals in the pesticides they use on the fruit. The water in Flint, Michigan is probably still flammable. This month we had radioactive shrimp contaminating the seafood supply. You're just fucked. You're just fucked. Never mind, sorry. And if I'm wrong about doctors, about this industry as a whole, okay. Then tell me in the comments right now, why is my mom dead? If they cared so much about her, if they cared about so many people's well-being, why is my mom dead? During these 2 months where my mom was left untreated, she started experiencing a very peculiar type of abdominal pain, like constipation, but much more painful, so I would end up having to take her to the emergency room a couple of times. Each time they did an abdominal CT, but nothing showed up. Doctors doing the bare minimum yet again. Something is clearly wrong, but it doesn't show up on the easiest test to perform, but they'll kick you out of the hospital and bill your insurance company anyway with no progress made on diagnosing you. By the 4th trip my mom has taken to the ER in 1 month, she demands a PET scan this time instead of a CT scan. She's due for one anyway. She's supposed to get these routinely as per her cancer diagnosis. She finally gets a hold of her AFK oncologist and finally is able to make an appointment to see her about a month out from when the scan is actually done. The day of the appointment is finally here and my mom is feeling significantly worse. Her oncologist walks in and says, "What am I seeing you for today?" It says here that you need a PET scan. Yeah, you're overdue for one. You should probably go get one of those before I talk to you today. This motherfucker has not yet read the PET scan results from the PET scan that my mom got a month ago. We gently remind this fat fucking heifer that she should already have the PET scan results, so she briefly excuses herself to go get them. After a moment, she returns, and without so much as a drop of bedside manner or any remorse or admission of fault for this entire predicament, she says, "Oh, hey, yeah, you know your cancer spread, right? Yeah, it's in your kidneys and abdomen now." My mom remains steadfast at this news. My mom has always been this unwavering fortress of stoicism, and today was no different, and she refused to give in to despair. I, on the other hand, started sobbing immediately. The oncologist tells us that with this new metastasis, her old medication will no longer work. because that medication was made for metastasis that had only moved into the bone, and now it was in the soft tissue. This, of course, feeds into my conspiracy theory that this was all orchestrated so that my mom would have to switch medications so that her doctor could get a kickback or something, but I digress. My mom, braver than anybody I've ever known, just says that's okay. There are endless possibilities. There's lots of things I haven't tried yet. There's lots of supplemental things I could do as well, like a keto diet or vitamin C drip therapies. The oncologist cuts her off with a scoff. The oncologist looks at me like she's Jim from The Fucking Office and I'm the goddamn cameraman. Ha! That stuff doesn't work. You know, I'm all for honesty and a doctor giving it to me straight, but what's with the ego there? Why would you say that to somebody who is just trying to find hope in a really dangerous situation? It's not like my mom said, oh, I'm gonna eat Borax packets and drink bleach and take my panties off and point my asshole directly at the sun like they said to do on TikTok and that'll cure me. This is the issue I have with a lot of doctors. They mount this high horse thinking themselves to be these medical rock stars up there with goddamn Watson and Crick, when the reality is they're just shitty HMO doctors that can't even remember what kind of cancer their patient has. I remember going home that day and just screaming and crying and hugging my mom a lot, and this was only the beginning of how bad things were about to get. But I sprang into action and I started researching every alternative cancer treatment in the book. I figure since my mom's got a week out before she gets her biopsy referral, it can't help to put her on maybe a really healthy diet, a keto diet even. It can't hurt to give her some medical marijuana. You know, every second counts, and she's got a week to go before we start discussing other treatment options, so might as well wait that week, try other things for a week, just 1 week.
4 to 6 weeks later.
We call these people every day for 4 weeks, trying to get them to finally refer us to the hospital so she can get a biopsy, so we can figure out what kind of treatment her new metastasis will respond to. Every time we try calling the hospital, they tell us that the oncologist's office has made some sort of clerical error, or they forgot a chunk of insurance information, or they still hadn't fixed a clerical error from 2 clerical errors ago. Let's talk about the worst people alive. Receptionists, bureaucrats, the people who have the easiest job in the world. All they're responsible for doing is taking data and entering it into a system, and they still manage to fuck that up. Remember that video I made about AI and how it's gonna take all the art jobs, and it's actually going to take every job, and then everybody is gonna be jobless, and it's gonna be a real bad time? I take it back. AI can have the receptionists. Loosely related, but I also think we should bring back public execution. Here's a reenactment of my own experience dealing with these kinds of people and trying to get old medical history documents transferred over to my new doctor. Hey, I'm a former patient there and I'm just trying to get some mammogram results from 2 years ago forwarded to my new doctor because I moved. Yeah, so we don't have those. We migrated to a new system. So we still haven't updated everything, so you're gonna have to, like, figure out what radiologist you went through and call them. And then maybe then you can, like, get those results directly from those people. Okay? Oh, okay, thanks. Hey, I'm a former patient there, I think. I'm just trying to get some mammogram results from, like, 2 years ago so they can be forwarded to my new doctor. I think this is the place where I got the scans done.
Oh yeah, we do mammograms here.
Yeah. Yeah, so can I have the results sent over to my new doctor, please?
Oh, so you like already had the scan done?
Yeah.
Oh my god, girly, of course. What's your doctor's name so I can find him in the system?
Well, he wouldn't be in your system because I've moved and I have a different health insurance plan now, but here's his address.
Okay, awesome. Let me just write out that email for you.
15 minutes later.
Hey, are you, like, good?
Yeah, it's just like I couldn't find your doctor in our system, so I'm just not sure how to email him.
Yeah, I said he's not going to be in your system because I have a different health insurance plan. He's a doctor at Kaiser. Do you want his email address again?
Oh, okay, why didn't you say so? Okay. Your email will be processed and sent out in between 2 and 24 hours.
2 and 24 hours to send an email? What? You know what? It's never mind. That's fine. Whatever works. Thanks.
Days later.
Hey, yeah, so I called about 36 hours ago. I was trying to get some mammogram results forwarded to my new doctor, and he hasn't received them yet. I'm just trying to see what's going on.
Oh, so like we don't send emails. We only do fax. What's your doctor's fax number?
These are the people that are going to kill you. When you're old and enfeebled or chronically ill, all it takes is one dumbass to take too long sending over some lab results or a referral request, and that's it. Time's up. So here's what happens at my mom's oncologist's office. After 4 weeks, I tell my mom, yo, we need to go to these people in person, because as long as we're willing to remain civil on the phone, they're willing to continue fucking us around. So I drive us up to the office, and I'm absolutely livid at this point. I had every intention to yell at these people and chew them out for fucking up something as simple as processing some insurance information and sending a referral over to a hospital, something that you'd think these people would be doing every day. However, this was different. My mom's life was on the line. So I go to the front desk with my fists clenched and my voice raised, but I'm not yelling, I'm crying. I'm cursing for sure, but mostly what I'm saying between sobs is, what the fuck are you guys doing? This is cancer, not a common cold. You guys need to stop fucking around and send the referral over. You're going to kill my mom at this rate. I'm not leaving until I have that damn referral. The fat bitch at the front desk starts sorting through my mom's files while another sympathetic doctor comes from the back and starts helping her out. Then another, even fatter bitch appears from the back.
You're being very rude, and we have a zero tolerance policy against people raising their voices here. You apologize right now.
And I say, no. What the fuck? Do your goddamn job.
Kill yourself, you stupid bitch! I hope your mom dies from cancer!
Medical professionals, everybody. After I throw their computer monitor and break their telephone and get escorted out by security, my mom and I decide that she needs a new oncologist. Her oncologist wasn't even in the office that day, by the way. I truly think these people need to be replaced by robots, every single goddamn one of them. AI is dumb as hell, but people working the front desks at doctors' offices are literally disabled. The average IQ can't be above 50. My dog's smarter than that. A robot's definitely smarter than that. And a robot's not gonna get mad at me for being upset over my mom's impending death. So here begins what will be the most arduous 6 months of my life. My dad starts trying to help my mom look for a new oncologist while I step caregiving into overdrive. I have to start doing more in the interim because now we're officially up shit creek without a paddle. I cook every meal for my mother. I get all sorts of supplements from the store. I get her those vitamin C drip treatments. I ask people on my Instagram story for their weirdest schizo Joe Rogan podcast, alternative cancer treatment, and a lot of you guys suggested ivermectin, so I thought, you know what, fuck it. I ain't got nothing left to lose. So you can save me your lecture on choosing alternative medications instead of going for scientifically backed strategies. There was no scientifically backed strategies because we didn't have access to a fucking doctor. So it was either try all of this stuff or sit and do nothing. Another month passes and my dad is finally able to find a new oncologist. We open the new intake paperwork that has arrived in the mail. We take a look at the oncologist's name. It's the same fucking oncologist, but in a different office across town. They gave us the same bitch twice. Another month passes and my mom starts to become more and more symptomatic. Her stomach hurts more and more. She's nauseous all the time. She drops like 30 pounds. I've never seen my mom look so thin and frail before. My whole life, I always looked to my mom as not just a pillar of mental strength, but as physical strength. She stood tall. Even as an adult, I never grew to be taller than her. My mom was built like a brick shithouse, an Amazonian goddess, something that you might see in the mythos of a long-forgotten empire. And now she sat before me, thin and frail and helpless. I'd feel the bones in her back when I hugged her, and I could see the vertebra on her spine begin to poke out from her neck. Another month passes. Finally get matched up with another oncologist. We check the name. It's the same person. Her insurance company once again gives us the same goddamn doctor, despite how much we complained about her gross incompetence and the complete insanity of her staff. We decided to change my mom's insurance altogether to a more pricier option, since Medicare simply does not give a shit. We hope that the extra money we spend is going to result in the life-saving treatment that my mom needs. Spoiler, it doesn't. The process of changing my mom's insurance takes another month. In that time, my mom becomes so emaciated and skinny that the muscles in her legs atrophy and she loses her ability to walk. I start having to take my mom to the hospital every 2 weeks or so. Her stomach starts filling up with fluid. I take her to a better hospital that's a little bit further away, but it's a university hospital, so the doctors are still young enough to kind of give a shit. Her stomach keeps filling up with fluid and it needs to be drained, but this time it's different. Some scans are done at the hospital because her pain is so severe. The doctors ask her what her treatment plan is. I tell them she doesn't have one. I tell them all about her last oncologist, and they are just as baffled as I am at the callousness of these people. Scan results come in. One of my mom's kidneys has gone partially necrotic and needs to have a stent put in. A nephrostomy tube now permanently dangled from my mom's body, and it was heartbreaking to see in a way that I can't even properly describe. She was recommended to be put on hospice. Now, I knew hospice was for people that were terminally ill, but what I didn't know was that to remain on hospice, you are meant to throw in the towel entirely. When we signed up for hospice, I thought I'd finally be able to catch a break. I'd become my mom's 24-hour caregiver, and I was totally exhausted. I was up every day at 5 a.m. My mom could no longer walk. I had to do everything. She couldn't bathe herself, she couldn't change herself, she couldn't feed herself. I had to be there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Starting at 5 a.m., I was not sleeping, I was not okay. It became like having a baby, but a baby that doesn't grow up, and a baby that doesn't laugh or giggle, just a very sad baby that exists, and she's too heavy to pick up and comfort, and you can't even say anything to tell her not to be afraid. You can't tell her not to worry. You can't tell her everything is going to be okay, because she already knows that it isn't going to be. I remember the last time my mom was able to go up the stairs. She couldn't do it completely unassisted. My dad had to support her waist and hold her hand, and since my parents had been divorced my entire conscious life, it was like getting to see them dance for the first time. So the hospice center said they'd be coming to help me feed and clean her. They were offering physical therapy services so that she could potentially get her strength back up so she could walk again. They were offering counseling services to improve her mood and her outlook. I thought all of this was to help my mom keep fighting. It wasn't. The second we opted to take my mom to the hospital again to have the fluid drained from her stomach because the pressure building up was too painful, we got a call from her insurance company. Before we could even have our first hospice appointment, it'd been canceled. When you get on hospice, that's it. You're just expected to die. I guess they were just waiting around for my mom's stomach to fill up with so much fluid that it exploded and killed her slowly and painfully. You're not allowed to receive comfort care while you're fighting for your life. Your insurance doesn't pay for that. You can pick one or the other. The way our current system works isn't even baffling to me anymore. Of course it works like this. The fascination with profit over people is what America has been about for decades now. People with debilitating illnesses are constantly fighting their insurance companies just to stay alive here, and then they'll go ahead and rug pull you. You can go into the emergency room for a freak accident thinking you're covered because you have to scrounge around for $1,500 a month to pay your insurance company, just for your insurance company to say, whoops, we're not paying for that, good luck though. And then they send you home with a bill, and it's totally legal for them to do that. With the introduction of the Affordable Care Act, health insurance companies are required by law to always disclose why they might be denying somebody's claim. But nobody ever enforces that law. Deny, delay, defend. That's the actual strategy that these insurance companies employ in order to avoid paying for your medical care. If you deny a request, the claimant is less likely to request a review of that denial. And if you keep issuing more and more reviews, the claimant is likely to just abandon the endeavor altogether. And of course they don't care if the patient is slowly dying or deteriorating. Why would they? All they care about is saving money. I wonder how listening to this story feels to somebody who's not from the United States. I have a lot of international viewers, so if you're from somewhere else, feel free to tell me in the comments how confusing this story was. After all of this, my mom finally is able to have her insurance switched over, and we find a new oncologist who actually has decent bedside manner this time. He doesn't even try to condemn us for trying out alternative treatments while we were waiting for multiple insurance companies to stop fucking us around. But it takes another 12 days for my mom to get her cancer biopsied and examined and approved for a new type of medication called Faslodex. And between Faslodex injection appointments thereafter, my mom gets weaker and weaker. It was becoming more and more apparent that it was too late. Mom was hospitalized for sepsis. We didn't know she had sepsis. They didn't tell us she had sepsis. They didn't tell her she had sepsis. We only found out after she'd been discharged. She couldn't eat more than a few bites of watermelon here or there, or a few sips of juice at a time. And she couldn't stop throwing up, and she couldn't stop salivating. No one would tell us why, no matter how many times we asked. No tests were done until we bitched enough, and they finally scheduled her for an endoscopy appointment to see what was going on with her throat, and a follow-up about the lack of care for her nausea. I went to see her in the hospital the day before, and this would be the last time I ever saw my mom coherent again. Was her same silly self. She complained about how loudly the equipment in her room beeped, and she complained about how long it took nurses to come around and changed her when she soiled herself. So I changed her. A hospital full of nurses gossiping and eating the vending machine M&Ms and not making themselves particularly busy. And I was the one that had to change her, like I had many times at home before. I brought her some grated ginger in a feeble attempt to do something about her nausea. We laughed and joked for a little bit. I gave her a big hug, and then she told me to go home and that she'd see me in a couple of days. I don't know what happened during that endoscopy, but she wasn't the same after that. We never got the results. We never got an answer as to why her throat was burning and full of so much spit, or why she was throwing up constantly. We never got any additional medication to fix her nausea problem. This time she came home with an oxygen machine. Her speech was slurred, and she didn't want to talk anymore. She just wanted to sleep. Gone was the woman that could entertain a whole room by laughing the loudest and talking the most and cracking the funniest one-liners. This was the last picture I ever took of my mom. She was asleep and sick and so skinny, but I thought she looked so beautiful anyway. On September 15th, 2025, my mom's breathing became labored. The oxygen machine wasn't working, and she started to refuse food entirely. None of it would stay down. She stopped being able to talk, and she screamed in pain with every breath that she took. I gave in to everything, and I signed her up for hospice again. A nurse arrived within hours and gave her some morphine, and when it took effect, She finally stopped screaming, but she was no longer responsive. She was alive and she was breathing, but she was unresponsive and she couldn't blink. The nurse told me she could still hear me though, that the hearing was the last part to go. So I just laid in bed with her for hours, and I told her how proud I was of her for fighting so hard, and I told her how much I loved her. And I told her she didn't need to worry about me, and that I'd be okay, and she didn't have to suffer anymore for me. She could just go when she was ready. My mom, my treasure, my soulmate. I loved her so much. I played Luciano Pavarotti for her, and I just laid next to her for hours and I cried. On the morning of September 16th, 2025, my mother took her last breath, and she was dead. I was her live-in nurse 24 hours a day for 6 months, and she still died. I loved her more than anybody else ever did, and I couldn't save her. Every doctor and insurance bureaucrat along the way failed her, but I feel like I can only blame myself for not being enough. It feels easier to say that it's my fault, because the alternative is realizing that if you get sick in this country, you're just fucked. The institutions we have, they will dick you over without giving it a second thought, and they don't give a shit about you. So it's easier to just say that it's my fault than to acknowledge the truth. If you live in America, this is your parents' future. This is your future. It's not an if, it's a when. I don't even know what the solution to any of this is. If we had a single-payer healthcare system like they do in Europe, the medical industry oligarchs would just lobby against the fixed medical care prices until they were expensive again. And I don't even know what legislature could be put into place to prevent egomaniacs and morons from getting medical licenses. It's erroneous to put your faith into these people at all. It's stupid to just wait and hope that things change. I know that's very bleak and doomer-pilled, but it's the truth. The best you can do is take really good care of your body and hope that it doesn't break down on you or maybe move to a different country. I wish I could end this video on a happy note. I wish I could tell you that I personally had ideas about healthcare reform. I wish I could tell you that I was like running for fucking president or something and that I was gonna save America, but I don't have anything like that. I just have my mom's story to tell you, and I hope that you listened. It's strange. I see a lot of politically motivated people out there protesting for a laundry list of reasons, but I never see anybody protesting about how bad healthcare is. At least it's not something that gets media coverage. I know I'm not the only person with a story like this either, and I'm wondering what we can do about it. Can we do anything about it? Seriously, what am I supposed to do? Am I, like, supposed to start an organization or something? Should I cyberbully politicians on Twitter? What am I supposed to do about any of this? I don't want to see any more people die like this. I'm sorry this was such a heavy video, but it's something that I really needed to get off of my chest. It took me 2 months to find grief counseling. I actually had signed up for a therapist, and when I went to her appointment, she kept getting notifications on her phone every time I would speak and tell her about how I got here. And then it looked like she was reading off of her phone, so I believe she was using ChatGPT to give me therapy. So yeah, that's another experience I've had in the healthcare industry. That's how much they give a shit about your mental health, by the way. I didn't want to look very hard for a sponsor for this video either. I didn't want to like have to cut myself off in the middle of this ordeal to tell you about like the latest and greatest boner pills or the world's softest mattress or whatever the fuck. So if you liked the video, just send it to somebody else. Send it to your grandma so she knows how she's gonna die, I don't know. Next video is probably gonna be more traditionally fun, so until next time, bye-bye. Bye, Mom. I love you forever. I'll like you for always. As long as I'm living, my mother you'll be. I love you, Mom. Say it back.
Since they banned your ass from when you say snitch, don't twitch. Cause somebody snitched on you. That's why they twitched your ass. You should get on. Is it OnlyFans or Fandom? OnlyFans. Huh? OnlyFans. Well, get on OnlyFans. Get yourself a jar of Jiffy peanut butter. Stick your feet in it. And then suck it off your own toe. Ah! You won!